Haven't seen anybody recently jumping in. So we shall start with Pledge of Allegiance. I like to do, because most of you folks don't attend the usual roundtable where it seems to be all Scouts, BSA leaders. I can't just say Boy Scouts anymore. Troop leaders. And we start with the Pledge of Allegiance and the usual Scout oath, Scout law, but I do have a flag available. And I'd like to say something other than just please repeat after me or join in. So for this one, I chose introduction that is, so long as the principles of truth, justice, and charity for all remain deeply rooted in human hearts, our flag shall continue to be the enduring banner of the United States of America. Let us join in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance, Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two. I think I got most of the flag in there. This camera has a different field of vision than the usual one. Okay, let's please join me in the Scout Oath to remind ourselves of what values we are trying to instill in the youth of our programs. Scout sign. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty, God and my country, and to obey the Scout law. To help other people at all times. Keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. And the Scout law is, a Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Two. Thank you. I tried to expand those and repeat the beginning parts over and over again, like on my honor, I promise to, and then do that for each of the separate items. It takes a long time, but people aren't used to hearing that. That each one of them is on our honor, and we promise to do each of those things. At least try. Nobody's perfect. We got to shoot for it, or else you won't get anywhere near. So,
John?
Joe?
Yeah, just as a reminder for everyone, we are recording the roundtable this evening. So those who are unable to make it will be able to view it afterwards. So please don't use any individual youth names. And as we're always scout-like in our behavior. So just want to make sure everyone realizes that. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I know that's a reminder to me because I'm doing the most talking, so most likely to violate something. I have gotten a nasty gram from National once for using and spelling the word correctly, D-A-M-N, in an email. And oh my goodness, they were jumping up and down on me. If I'd misspelled it, the computer wouldn't have caught it. So that's what I get for spelling things correctly, but also referring to lawyers as that term. So I worked too many years with lawyers. I know. All right. Tonight we're focusing the roundtable just on Cub Scout leader issues. We don't seem to have many people from Cub Scouts showing up at the monthly roundtables. So I wanted to take a chance, and the troop leaders were happy to get a month off, or at least one night of the year off. And the last time we did this for just Scout leaders, Cub Scout leaders, was, I believe, June, when we had a Wednesday evening, second Wednesday of the month, just before the regular roundtable on the second Thursday. If people would like to do this, not meet with the other leaders from all those other units and levels, we could see if we can make that happen more often than twice a year. But certainly we can do breakouts with the power of the abilities of Zoom. We can break out into two different sessions and have one working on just Cub Scout issues and one on the Scouts BSA issues and or venture crews. So let's see how it goes. And if you want to repeat it, we'll be having another roundtable months from now on the second Thursday, which is, I believe, the 14th of January. I checked the calendar earlier. So, oh, we got one more person, Art from Belmont. You didn't miss much, Art.
Just finishing up dinner. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Glad to have you with us. So just saying, we're dedicating tonight's session to this roundtable to just Cub Scouts leaders. And we'll see if we need to do that again, or if we can do it again. The last time we did it was in June, before all hell broke loose. I think I can use that four-letter word without getting reprimanded. COVID is still with us. In fact, it's, I believe now, worse than it was for almost all of, if not all of the previous 9 months. So it's still ramping up, and now more cases are coming. And of course, council has us at gear number 3, which is no indoor meetings allowed. Well, that's the guidance. I don't know how they'd enforce it, but I don't look at commissioners as being police officers. So, but I know I have to, my wife's keeping me on a short leash. I'm not allowed to do much or go anywhere. So trying to avoid the bug or the virus. So let's see the issues tonight. You all got the invitation email from November 28th, I believe, where I described somewhat of what I hope to get done tonight. And then Joe sent out the reminder announcement 2 days ago. We've got lots of things that we're supposed to be doing at this time of the year. One I want to deal with first is rechartering. The council had put all of our units on the year ending December 31st. That happened, I think, a couple of years ago now. So we've got that target, and of course it conflicts with the holidays at the end of December. So it makes it a little tougher to get things done. I also believe now, because of the surge in COVID, that the office is not populated at all. Someone may sneak in once in a while on their own, but you have to make an appointment to deal with anybody who is normally in the office, especially for turning in all the papers connected with rechartering your units, rechartering and re-registering all of your youth and adult members. So I urge you all, if you, I've got a list of who's how far on the process, online process, and there's not very many. I think there's like 19 or 20 out of 41 units that have even started the electronic process. At this point, 5 have gone through all 5 stages and hit that submit button at the end. So it has available to council to look over, but they're still waiting for other paperwork. And of course, they're really looking for the check to complete the process. And they only want the checks from the units, not from individuals. Otherwise, they get really messed up. So we don't want to do that to them. But if your unit has not started, or if you know if your unit has not started the process, time's a wasting. At least get in there online, make sure that your code works, and start by printing out a copy of the roster. So you know what the computer thinks you have, and who you can determine who you have to delete and who you need to add. And if you have to add somebody, of course, you've got to have applications. And if it's adults, you have to have the waiver, basically. letting them do checks on you. Can't remember the name of that right now, but so I haven't had to do one.
The Corey background.
Corey, yeah, Corey.
Corey
Criminal
and
records,
BSA
records.
background check, yeah.
Yeah.
Consent.
And of course, it's a brand new copy of their driver's license, photo ID.
If I understand correctly, John, there's two. There's the Massachusetts Corey,
Right.
and then on the application form, there's the thing you have to acknowledge to allow national to snoop into your background.
Yep, there's two of those. And you have to have proof that you've taken and completed successfully the youth protection training. Of course, all of us have to do that every 2 years. And I just got mine done after mine expired back in August. So I was getting reminders all over the place. Taylor, I want to congratulate you. You were the very first unit to get, oh, wait a minute. You're with the pack.
You must mean the troop.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I wanted to give credit where credit's due, but you can pass on my recognition to the troop.
I will
They
say
were the
that
very first one.
we are an intentional laggard, the pack, because we wanted to get 3 months of fall programming under our belt to demonstrate to families that, you know, we're running things effectively in the midst of COVID. We thought it was inappropriate to ask in September for people to commit to an entire year. And I think at this point, we've done that. We've announced what our plans are for the coming months. And so I know it sort of drives the council into a tizzy sometimes, but we're doing exactly what we intended, which is to recharter in the latter half of December.
You're not alone. It was good that the troop got it done first. They submitted their stuff electronically on December 1st. So council was starting to look happy. I get nice messages from Jonathan Pleva instead of the nasty grams where please get after those people. So, but that's better to do it sooner than later, because at the end, if something goes wrong and you need to do something, you run out of time and it's not good. And we really don't want to have any units dragging into the next year. For the last couple of years, we've had at least one unit that drags it all the way to August. In fact, one pack didn't even recharter last year, purposely.
Ooh, I know. Can I guess?
Yeah, I know it. You're the one that reported it to me, David. I kind of tell you what city they were in.
Oh boy.
But those folks thought they could take what they called a gap year. That causes a lot of mischief with all the record keeping. The scouts couldn't advance. If they cared about it, they lose their tenure. The chartered organization loses its continuous years of supporting or sponsoring a unit, a Cub Scouting unit. So it was not a great thing to do, but they did it. All the units are chartered to some organization to provide the scouting program as a part of the youth service that organization is trying to provide to its youth. At least that's how the contract is written, the charter agreement. And that is the intent of it. Scout units should not be on their own. There should be some organization in the community that is backing them up and actually has been granted a charter. So it's the time of year to do that again. We really should probably get the charter organization representatives involved a bit more. So we shall see how it goes this year, but sooner is better than later to get that stuff out of the way. So, one sheet of paper, 2 sheets of paper out of the way. The main topic, one more. Have you all, anybody that is here now, are you actually the person that does the rechartering? Raise your hand if you are. So that's fewer than are not. But there is a form you need to fill out, or the unit needs to fill out. Basically, it's a cover sheet for turning in the recharter. And it does have the fees on here, which we all know went up this year. But when everything's filled in correctly, you know you got everything you need. It's a nice, useful form if you want to use it. Okay, rechartering. The main topic for tonight, I hope is going to be that we share experiences, knowledge, resources, ideas, observations, complaints in the efforts to deliver the Cub Scout program during COVID or the pandemic, whichever way you want to identify it. I know it's not easy. Having good weather, being able to be outside during the summer and the fall was helpful. Spring was crazy anyway, but even when the weather was decent, people didn't know what was coming. And now we've had 9 months of it. People have found ways to work around the impediments and the restrictions. And that's what I'd like to have us share from the people who are doing well to help out the people who are having more trouble in trying to deliver scouting to their scouts and their families. So I know that some of the units represented here were with us back in June and had some really good things that they were doing. And other ones, I can't remember who was which anymore, but other units were having more difficulty trying to figure out what in the world they can do. I know I had one committee chair from a unit not to be identified here who called me on October 1st saying, what can I do? He was just starting to get back in the fall to start scouting again, hadn't spoken to anybody and thought his unit commissioner, as he identifies me, could tell him what to do. And of course I said, well, talk to your people, figure out what they can do, what your charter organization can do, where you're meeting, what your leaders can do, what's available, who's got Zoom or these video platforms to use, what the kids are up to, what their families are doing. 3 weeks later, he called me again during one of my video meetings with other people. And he then wanted me to tell him exactly what he could do. I don't think he had seen the council's gear system of what could or should not be done, should be done or should not be done relative to COVID, but actually having time to figure out and people to work with to have the kids advance through their ranks. We're just talking Cub Scouts, was still a problem. That particular unit has had difficulty through the years, not many kids, not many families. So it's not quite a critical mass, which makes it even more difficult. Haven't heard from him since. I have heard that some of his scouts and their families participated in a outdoor activity organized by a troop in their same town, where there were more Cub Scout people there than there were Scouts BSA people, which was good to hear, especially since 2 Cub packs are left in that town, 3 actually, but they all needed help. And the Boy Scouts were helping out, stood ready to help out and run an activity event outdoors. But since then, the weather temperatures have fallen through the freezing temperature, and it's not easy. And of course, evenings are dark real early. It's hard to even do anything. I just attended a PAC committee meeting last Wednesday, and last week Wednesday, not this Wednesday. It was dark. It was tough, and the floodlights that are usually on for that ball field were not on that night. It was real hard to hold a meeting in the dark. But a scout is prepared. So somebody at least had a headlight, and other people had flashlights and cell phones. Smartphones have a flashlight attachment or not attachment, function. So, but I'd like to ask whoever wants to jump in, just let us know what your difficulties are or what your successes are, so we can share from both ends of the spectrum and see if we can help everybody deliver a better program, or the best that we can under these circumstances. A volunteer, Mike,
Right.
from Somerville.
Yeah, so we've had some things which have been easy, things which have not. We've had some really good online meetings. We actually, I just got the final draft of a supercut of Christmas carols that all the dens and some individuals are singing. Every year we sing at a VNA, which is local, but obviously we can't go in and do that this year. So we had each of the units as a den do their sing along together and supercut that up. And that's going to be part of our December PAC meeting, is showing that. That came out really well. The downside, John, we almost got our Pinewood Derby together, but that got stomped on by the change in gears. We have some new scouts who are really excited to hopefully race next year, and we're planning on having that in late February, early March, and distributing cars in the new year. We got a lot of people who are excited about that, but we're still working on some of the organization for getting cars built outdoors, particularly cuts. We had a pretty steep drop off in retention. We probably lost about 30 to 40% of our kids. But I got to say my den leaders have really stepped up and have run a pretty good program. They're all doing it. We've set some guidelines, which are basically what the city of Somerville says, which is pretty restrictive. But our den leaders have come up with a lot of different things to do, from bike rides to some are doing only Zoom meetings. Depends on comfort level of the den and the den leaders. But that's kind of where we are. We have a bit of a grab bag.
Yes, that's how reality creeps in. Gives you a few little positives and whacks you in a bunch of negatives. But scouting does go on. Are you doing anything for the cold weather now? Meeting outside? Or
Most of our dens have moved to Zoom. We are planning on organized a time slotted sledding event in January, which is obviously going to be weather dependent, but we'll see how that goes.
oh, winter activities, right? Okay,
Yep.
great.
Keep it simple, keep it fun.
Keeping the fun in scouting, right? That's what keeps the kids coming. The rest of us are trying to teach them something other than that, but they don't need to know the purpose of scouting. Scouting with a purpose, right? Anybody else?
I'll weigh in.
Taylor from
Sure.
Watertown.
Yeah, I think we've had a really good fall. I would say it exceeded my expectations. We had about, we had been growing. We were large last year at 61. And I'd say we're down to about 45 now. But I think that's not bad. And in some cases, it's actually made dens more manageable, because we had some of our dens kind of swelling to, sizes that were just sort of, took 3 or 4 leaders to deal with all the kids. You got 17 in the den or something like that. And those have come down to, 8, 9, or 10, a little more manageable size. And almost all of our den leaders have come back and been committed. And so we started off in September. We've had 3 outdoor PAC meetings, one each month. We've got another one coming up planned for December 19th. After our outdoor meeting limit, size limit went down to 25, we split the PAC in 2, right? So we have a back-to-back 2 45-minute meetings, one for the younger ones and then one right after for the older ones. We really lucked out on timing with a couple of events in October. So we held our Pinewood Derby the first weekend in October, had that outdoors in the driveway of our church. That was great. We had our Webelos go on a camp out with the troop in mid-October. And the weekend after that, we were at New England Base Camp for a PAC camp out. And I think that was the last weekend before camping got shut down. So we really lucked out with that. Everybody had a great time. We've really taken advantage of the weather for some PAC events, and we're continuing to do that. I think as we move into January and February, we'll have our PAC meetings by Zoom. But so far we've been able to be outdoors. And for the den meetings, we've like Mike was saying, we basically have allowed, we encourage den leaders to get in touch with the families, make a plan for what works, the format of the meetings, the location, if it's going to be outdoors in person, the day of the week, the time, how often they meet, etc. Right. And so we've really decentralized it, which has worked very, very well. I've sort of de facto, in addition to being Cub Master, taken over being Wolf Den leader, because that was the den where we lost our 2 leaders. But my daughter's in that one, so it's appropriate. And we've met outside every week since the beginning of October. Last weekend it was kind of chilly. We met at the park. I reserved a grill. We got some coals going. We had something to cluster around when the kids needed to warm up. We played games outside, and then we did s'mores at the end. So there are ways to make it work, even if it gets a little bit colder. We're planning to meet again on Saturday morning. And a number of the dens have been doing stuff outside. I don't know if this will happen consistently through February, but we're also looking at, we had an idea for doing an outdoor blue and gold banquet. So getting a campsite at, one of the locations, Knobscott's one where we've, had some good camping experiences, but get a campsite for the day, and just have an outdoor. That our Webelos need to get their cast iron chef, so they can work on that, and we can't exceed the 25-person limit, so have the Webelos there, and then have one den at a time come through for lunch, mid-afternoon snack, dinner, right? Kind of cycle through, get some time outdoors. You got a big fire going all day, so people can stay warm. So we'll see how it goes. But I've just been really reassured by the enthusiasm of the families in our pack to want to keep going. As COVID has gotten worse and worse, we've tried to keep things safe, and people have kept coming. So it's been really great.
Oh, glad to hear. And lots of ideas there of things that people can try. And it works. But it really does come down to the den leaders, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously you couldn't run the program without them. And especially now, right? Because, we used to, every Thursday night we would meet, and 3 out of 4 Thursdays a month would be our den meeting nights, but we would all be together in the same place, and I would open the meeting, and then we would split off into rooms, and so the den leaders, they didn't need to plan a location, a time. They just needed to show up and have an activity planned.
Fine.
And now they've had to take on responsibility for, sort of putting together their own schedule. I will say that one thing that's been challenging has been, making sure we adhere to the youth protection rules with 2 deep leadership, as well as the 1 female adult leader present. When we used to all meet in the same location every Thursday night, we always had a female leader, even if there wasn't a female leader of every den, because we have some in the pack. But a den leader who suddenly can't make it can kind of throw everything into a tizzy. And I'd actually like some guidance on this. I don't know if the Scouting Guide Award makes it clear that if the parents of each of your Cub Scouts are present, each of them can count as the second adult leader, so that you can have a den meeting that meets the criterion with only 1 registered adult leader. It was unclear to me if that also counts for the female leadership. So if the girls in the pack, if a parent is with them at a den meeting, does that check the box? I couldn't find anything online about that. It would seem to be consistent with the spirit of the parents count rule for 2 deep leadership, but I don't know if you have the answer. You're not necessarily the one to speak for the official policies of all of BSA, but that's been a challenge, with this new kind of decentralized meeting approach.
So just like an answer from the scout side when it comes to merit badges, Because I went around that with the council and I got some word back from there is that as long as it's a female parent who is there with the registered adult leader, that would work with the merit badge exception that's allowed for a registered, one registered adult leader with the parent.
Okay.
But it has to be the female parent if it's a female scout.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I don't know how that applies to dens, but I would imagine it's probably the same. Or,
Sounds consistent with my understanding of it. And of course, the leaders are supposed to be youth protection trained, currently youth protection trained. The parents don't have to be, but they are encouraged to take youth protection training as well as the registered leaders. More is better in that case. If we can get everybody to take youth protection, it'd be wonderful. We'll all be on the same page. Oh, I'm seeing different things flashing in front of my screen, but
Yeah, so Ken just posted the so the official statement, which I'd seen. I guess there's an FAQ off of this. If you click on this youth protection and barriers to abuse FAQ that's at the bottom of what he posted there, that takes you a page that explains that, like, the first question tells you that if there's a parent with each scout, each parent can count as the second adult for their scout, right? But it doesn't say whether that, counts as the female leader. And I guess Art has addressed that question. So
yeah, just the merit badge. There is that a merit badge and fundraising exemption that specifically calls out that it can be one registered adult leader and then a parent. But that was
is that supposed to be only for merit badges?
Merit badges and fundraising were the two that were called out. And then since then, the digital policy last spring required that for when you have breakout rooms, it required that 2 registered adult leaders be present in a breakout room. I've noticed that that's gotten softened along the way, that the second person could be a parent.
So if we're running a den meeting that has 1 registered adult leader and then a parent of each Cub Scout who's present, that's technically not allowed?
I think technically that it's not allowed there, but it's weird that but I don't want to speak for Cubs once again, but it's weird that they have this exception for merit badges, fundraising, and now they've made this provision for Zoom breakout rooms, or not necessarily Zoom, but just digital media. So I have to go back. I can see if I can find that particular link because they keep moving they've shifted that around a few times.
Yeah. Anyway, that's been the challenge. That's been a challenge, right? I mean, every den meeting separately, you have 2 leaders, that are registered for one den, and then like one of them can't make it. Does that mean the meeting doesn't happen? I don't know. It's been a challenge. So.
of course, the overall goal is to not only deliver the scouting program to the kids, get them through their adventures, but to make sure that they're safe and the adults are safe. So that's why the 2 deep policy has always been there. And yeah, I'm seeing that message again from Ken Fong. Yeah, Ken's pretty tight on that stuff. So if it's out there, if we can find an absolute answer for it, we will get it. And then we can send it around to everybody. But just trying to make sure you got 2 adults. One of them's got to be youth protection trained. One should be registered, preferably the same person. And the parents count, because you want a witness to back you up if kids ever accused you of anything. So not having a second kid and only 1 adult just doesn't really work. Doesn't cut it. So 2 adults. Okay. Anybody else want to jump in at this point? I see we've got 2 Boy Scout leaders, both from Troop 304. Glad to have you both, Art and Hendrik. I hope you weren't expecting this was a regular round table. This is just for Cub Scouts tonight. We're not going to be addressing, unless generically, any other issues that would involve Scouts BSA. Rechartering I've already talked about.
Yeah.
John,
No,
can I
it's-
ask a question.
Yes, Hendrik.
It's good to hear what the packs are doing as well. We have 2 packs in town, right? And it's good to
Right.
hear
Oh.
if we can assist them and,
Yeah.
I don't know,
I'm
as
happy
they
to have you guys
progress, right?
participate.
So,
So I'm glad you're here.
well, they feed us scouts. That's the bottom line, right? Plus, it's an awesome program.
John, can I ask a question? I know I am a guest in this group. It's Francisco. I'm going to first say thanks for holding this. It's the first communication I've gotten officially from anybody about what's going on. I'm going to congratulate Mike and Taylor for what they're doing. I'm at the other end. We have had no contact with our scouts since the pandemic started. The online is not a strong presence for us. I am kind of curious. I see 2 cup leaders with active programs in SOL. How about all the other packs? Are all the other packs being this active, or I said, are they having the same struggles that I'm dealing with?
Well, we have 17 packs in the district. I know you're not in our district anymore, but physically you are. The town
Thank
you're
you.
in
I
is served by our
appreciate
district.
you. Feel welcome. Yes.
And we're always happy to have you, especially at Pinewood Derby, District Pinewood Derby time. But yes, I understand that some of the packs have not been able to do anything. And not every scout, not every family has access to Wi-Fi and a computer to use the Wi-Fi on. So, and even if they do, the kids reach that fatigue level a lot faster than adults of sitting in front of a screen. If they're doing school for 6 hours or whatever it is each day, they don't want to be spending their evenings in front of this virtual meeting stuff, even though they get to see different people.
So the question comes up, how do we recharter? And I realize that, again, mine's separate and I'm working with Johnny and all those people with that. But for those of you in your group, how are those groups that haven't met since the pandemic started, how are they going to recharter?
How are they going to recharter?
They haven't had a meeting since March. And I believe from the context I have still in SOL, there is a lot of packs that have not had a meeting since the pandemic started in March. They did not do recruiting. They haven't had meetings. How are they supposed to recharter? John,
Okay.
You know I love you, and I know there's dates. A few people here have that question, and everybody's afraid to ask you. I've known you for too long. So let's put the information out there so they know.
Of course, the rechartering, I mean, the mechanics of it is still the same. You can go online. I do not have the password or the code for your particular unit. I just have the ones for within our district, Sons of Liberty. But they can still get in and record who they still have with them. I think your question really goes to more of how do you get in contact with your parents, your families, if you're not having meetings?
How are they going to collect that check from the state that they haven't had the meeting?
How are you going to get any kind of confirmation that they plan on being with you in the next calendar year, which is only half of the current scout year? That's tough. It comes down to personal connection, whether in person or phone. You're reduced to that. Text messages, maybe, emails, but I know that I've sent out emails to all the packs on several occasions, and I get very few responses of any kind back. And I have to wonder what's going on out there. I can't assume that everything is hunky-dory. And I hate to assume the other side, that nothing is happening, but
I think at this point, realistically, and I'm just giving you a guess, half the packs have not met. Maybe 1 or 2 virtual meetings with maybe 20% of the kids, and that's been it. And if anybody has, is in that position, I'd love to hear how else you get around it. Yes, I mean, we threw in the towel early on. It just for 2 kids, not meeting any other requirements, you're like, this isn't worth it. And again, I'm hearing from a lot of other adult Cub leaders, both in SOL and in Beacom, that it's not doable. It's not doable.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to echo what Francisco is saying. We had that effect here with the packs that I know of in Waltham. In the early going, one of our den leaders had even gone so far as to say, yeah, I can't imagine myself having a Zoom meeting with 10 7-year-olds. And, it just went nowhere. And that's kind of led to the situation that we're in here in Waltham. Of the 3 packs that I have in town, 2 of them, Mr. Bull and Mr. Sakikian, I pretty much declared them defunct. And the other one is Pack 250. And right now I have no concerns over their well-being, but, it's got to reach a point where everybody's going to be affected. And I hear what some of the other packs have done, but it's Francisco's point. We've gone, 8 months now with no contact? Those kids are gone. They're not coming back.
I mean, I know that from my conversations with our area, it's like we are crossing our fingers and hoping that this is past its course, and in September we're going to start fresh. But I'm not looking at recharging any. If I lose a year of longevity, it happens. But I'm not putting a foot in the bill for 35 Cub Scouts that I have not spoken to since March. I'm not asking the parents to write me a check.
Yeah.
I'm not asking council to foot the bill for it. So realistically, we're going to take the bye year, and hopefully in September, when this is all over, we're going to go back to it. And what David's saying, I mean, in my personal opinion, is a program online with, 6, 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. It's not doable. We're not doing what we are in here to do. I think for these troop, and I take my hat off to Ron. He's there every Tuesday with those kids, and I think it's amazing. But for Cub Scouts, it's challenging. It's very challenging, especially when they're in school. Some of the communities that are now going back to the buildings, great, but in communities where you're still 100% online for the kids, it's a tough call.
Wow.
So
a suggestion I'd make is to reach out to the troops and help facilitate it. I think I don't know if the troops are doing better, but at least the scouts are older and can do the Zoom meetings and stuff like that, and are used to it in high school and in middle school. So just trying to get go through an hour of light ceremony. It really took our troop to kind of push the 2 Cub packs to say, hey, can we wrap this up? And part of it was, we were very interested in having them cross over. And Henrik, we have about 10 that crossed over, somewhere in that neighborhood. In September. It was a little bit later than we would normally do, and we're trying to get them towards scout rank for a January Court of Honor. In the meantime, reaching back down in the new Webelow 2 levels, we invited both packs. We only got 2 scouts to show up at our camping trip got turned into a day trip, but we got 2 Webelow 2s to come out to it. And so maybe the critical mass is maybe a little bit tough in the Cub pack, but maybe the scout troop can help at least with the Webelows.
We were fortunate. We crossed our Webelos over in March, so Ron can speak to it. He's the scoutmaster for our troop.
Yeah, the troop is basically hanging on by the skin of our teeth. We've got kids coming. We've got some of the older scouts who are not as well motivated as I would hope. Kids I thought had a lot of leadership potential who haven't shown up. We have one guy who's going to make Eagle. We're going to get him to Eagle by the end of June of this year. I don't know how we'll do that virtually, but somehow we will. We'll do a virtual project advising. But we can work with kids, but they got to show up. And obviously in Chelsea, Everett, the kids are basically 100% remote learning. Every time they tried to open a school, the Catholic school opened for a week and then it proceeded to close because somebody got sick. That's two of our kids. And it's a bad situation. I think it's town by town. After the last Boy Scout, oops, I said a bad word. After the last Boy Scout roundtable, I was looking at all the troops that were giving some very nice, excellent action reports. And then I looked at the colors that the state is coding the COVID situation. And interestingly, those that were not hit at that time were doing quite well. Those that had the heavy hitting of COVID are in the same kind of boat that we are. I'm deeply afraid for Cub Scouting, and obviously not just in Chelsea. I'm sorry, I mean in general, that we're going to find these little kids, unless things open up, unless vaccines stuff becomes much widely available, even at the young ages of scout leaders, it's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard to be looking at a flow in of kids. Art and Henrik, you are wonderful that you got 10 kids crossing over. I don't see that happening in a lot of units, unfortunately. And I've been doing this 22 years in Troop 109, and it's one of the grimmest situations I have seen. I feel especially bad because Francisco and Terry have truly bent over backwards, sideways, and everything else to put together a program. I have volunteers are hard to get, and they've done a remarkable job doing that. And I hate to see that coming to an end at this time, and basically because of circumstances well beyond any of our controls.
I'm gonna voice the same thing I'm going to be voicing to our professionals in the next few days. I have some meetings set up. I think council needs to reallocate its resources and get ready to do a huge push. Once this is over, they need to do a huge push, similar to the advertising with the billboards and that a few years ago. They need to get ready to do that. Because we're going to have a whole year that 80% of our packs and 50% of our troops have not met. They need to put a good push in recruiting, getting our word out there, getting the good stuff that we do out there out into the community. So hopefully, I'm praying September, we have some steam to go into a heavy recruiting quest and start picking up the pieces. But I take my hat off to those that are doing it. Taylor Joe, I think it's amazing. But I think you folks are the exception. I think the rule is it's going to be a dead year for us. And we just need to get ourselves ready to really just go out there next September, hopefully, and get us back into track then.
I mean, I do think that, I would have a little bit of optimism. In our pack, I queried everybody in early September as to what their plans were going to be. And, when we had some families that really, had been very involved last year, and just made it clear that they, weren't comfortable, in terms of safety, participating, or they, life just felt too crazy. And, I think some of them will come back in September, right? People want to get back to the way their lives were before, right? Not 100%, but some of them will. So I think this idea about a good recruiting push in September could bear some fruit. I wouldn't, we've obviously had a good experience, and I recognize that not everybody has. And I don't know, Francisco, if I were in your position, I don't know what could be done now, right? I mean, we tried very explicitly not to let the momentum drop, and to keep going without hardly missing a beat in March, and to transition to online meetings, and and hold some events over the summer, and get going with full steam in the fall. And I think, because we did that, we were in a good position to say, to ask for people to commit to next year and to give us those checks, because, saying, here's what we're doing. And I think it would be really hard to start up right now. I think it'd be really hard to reach harder and ask for that money, right? But I wouldn't write it off in September of next year. So
No, I agree. I think September of next year, I think we need to just, at least from my end, I am attempting to just get ready to start recouping, and I'm hoping that the situation's back to semi-normal, that we can start recruiting, and normally we start recruiting events in August. We have a number of kickoff functions, we have a kickoff camping trip. But as I said, I think right now for us, there's very little we can do. And unfortunately, and now I'm being my blunt self, Ron, you can yell at me afterwards for this. I think if council keeps pushing those packs that are in our situation for registrations and all that, you're going to start turning off those adult leaders. They're gonna go, don't they know what the hell's going on? Aren't they? Can they get their heads under their butts and look at the reality?
They would be carried on as scouts, I think without paying anything, where they were no longer actively in the program. Why can't we talk
Village
about rolling
Reserve,
something
but I
like
think
that
they
out
still
in
have
the
to pay.
situation? You know, so
Scout or
that if,
College Reserve, Ron, but they still have
right,
to pay.
whatever you call it, some sort of category like that, especially for leaders who have been trained and have experience, but are in a situation like Francisco's, where they can maintain their tie with the BSA through whatever happens in the next 12 months. That's,
Yeah, Steve, I
that's
heard, Steve, I just said that there is a cost. I know we've registered, we have one that just, we registered over, and to that unit reserve, and I didn't think there was a cost on it. I could be.
Well, don't quote me. I'm sorry. I presume there was, but it may not be. I'll take your word for it if you say there isn't.
That was my impression. I can look it up.
But Ron, I mean, I think the ideas like that are great, but the facility to make something like that happen, the conditions, the circumstances, with the types of headaches that the national organization has regarding the molestation settlement, asking for them to create some new special category, where people can stay on the charter without paying. I mean, it's not the time to be.
well, Steve, I'm making the assumption that there will be a BSA after this is all over. That may be a faulty assumption right off the bat. But pretending that there will be suggests that we should be doing something to save our volunteers now.
The reality, Steve, and you can pass, as I said, I've got a meeting with John Pleva coming up, but the reality of it is like the pressure being mounted on some leaders of inactive groups to recharge and all that, it's going to drive them away. And realistically, I think with few exceptions, most of the scout leaders, most of the scout groups depend on those volunteers, and they're very hard to come by, especially when you got good ones. You want to find a way to just keep them in the fold, say, hey, listen, let's take a pass on this and come back when we can use them in an active scouting program in September versus possibly getting the check in January and then going, yeah, I'm done.
No matter how good a recruitment program or re-rollout happens, when it happens, if there's no volunteer leader group available, it's not going to succeed.
These issues are some that I brought to our district operations meeting, which is a quarterly meeting of the key three members of each district, the 6 districts in our council. And well, Steve, you were there, just as our district chairman, because one of the other PACs who's not here, the Cub Master, called me earlier and said he couldn't make it. He had asked if I could raise the question about how they can, what they can do in the face of having to ask families for money now when they're not seeing much, if any, value from council or national, because either their units are not meeting or the activities that council or national are offering are not really available to their kids. The adventure card, the classes that are scheduling, the adventure boxes, which are also like kits of materials for individual adventures in the kids' handbooks, working towards their rank. They also are similar things are available for Boy Scouts. Did I use the wrong word? For Boy Scouts using, working for their badges of rank, their merit badges on the way to their ranks. But he was saying that they would like to do what he was calling a hiatus of just freezing their membership, not having to recharter, not having to pay money now that they don't think they'll be able to get out of or without great effort from their families. And it's a triple whammy right now with with national, that we've got this whole thing about increased fees. And that's due to the bad press that we're getting, or scouting is getting, because of all the old cases and actually some current or fairly current ones of abuse of members, youth and adult. And then the COVID on top of that. So everything is like working against having things run certainly normally, but just trying to keep things going now from the Cub Scout level, where the families don't have much experience or much commitment with scouting because they're so new to it. And we have not many leaders at the Cub level. We certainly don't want to lose anybody else. But losing packs, we're concerned that if a pack is gone for 1 year, they may never come back. The families, the kids, the leaders, and that happens in other organizations too. If you stop the momentum, it falls apart. And I was not happy that there weren't too many sympathetic or even encouraging words from the other district people or the council people that were at that meeting. It was like, well, you got to pay your dues. You got to continue. It's not set up to, nothing is set up to make any kind of those concessions. Although I've heard, to give credit, council emails I've gotten said when they're pushing for us to push rechartering, is that they recognize that the packs, the Cub Scouts units are having trouble, that it is a difficult time for them. They didn't say how they're going to address that, or if they're going to address it all, just that they recognize that it's a really difficult time in cubbing, right?
Well, don't forget that the council has, we talked about this a couple of months ago. It's dropped off the conversation recently, but they're offering scholarships to help defer part of the cost of registration. And you just have to ask for it as part of the rechartering process. It's not going to be 100%, but it's going to be something. And that might make the difference between somebody staying on, and somebody not. If they have to come up with $20 as opposed to $48, maybe they can do it. So don't forget, all you got to do is ask. And the burden is not on the individual to apply. I pressed them when this first came out. I said, what's the process? And they sort of shrugged and said, just tell them to ask for it. Partly because they felt like any process they said, other people would just work around it anyway. So if you're rechartering and you feel like you've got families that, are having financial difficulties, make a list, talk to John Pleva and say, I need help with, scholarship for X number of people because they don't have jobs, et cetera. And see where the conversation goes.
And that was to address the cost of the adventure card where the
Yeah.
money goes to the council. But there was no such similar idea or offering for national to help subsidize or
No,
work
because
with-
the council has no ability to influence that process
Right.
of paying a national charter fee. They can waive their own fees, but they can't waive the national fee.
Right.
And, my comment before is that this is really not a time to be talking to national about floating, non-payment, that they haven't got, any flexibility from a financial perspective. I understand your point, Francisco, and it's a serious one, losing people because they can't afford to stay on. I even offered to have our troop pay the Cub Pack's charter fee. We've got some cash in the bank, and if it's a matter of money, I'd rather pay their Cub Pack fee and keep it in existence out of our own pockets and worry about it later. But I don't know, not every community has that ability.
Fortunately, the communities that are represented here in this call are all the ones that are having success. How do we reach, like, Steve, I knew about that offer from council and I've related to the people I've talked to, but how many packs did we say? We have 20 at SOL. There's 4 represented here. The other 16 are the one that's struggling. You got to get the word to them that there is some help. But as I said, I will be relaying over to the professional court. When you're dealing with 20% unemployment in Massachusetts, again, it's a tough ask to ask the parents to fork over that money. And again, we're fortunate that we have a sourcing fund within council for our group, but on a lot of packs out there do not have that help, and we need to find a way to get the information over to them. But yeah, it could make a difference. I'm not sure how much, but it could make a difference.
Well, I guess it does come down to taking the initiative and asking. But national, I don't think we can expect anything from them. They're looking for 75 from a unit just for the recharter fee on the unit, which is supposedly some kind of insurance. But the $66 per kid, the $25 for any new one on top of that one-time joining fee, that adds up to $151 right there for a brand new kid, just for the 12 months of the year 2021. Not even adding in the prorating for this year, but we're already almost halfway through. Well, we're a third of the way through December. So no sense registering any kid right now, put him on the charter and turn that in by December 31st, not pay for December separately. But the adult fee is also 42. A lot of units pay for their adult registrations, $42 now. That all adds up to a lot of money coming out of the packs. Or wherever they can get the money. Charter organizations, I know they hardly any of them have ever financially supported their units. Maybe some troops get some help, but I don't know. I haven't heard of any packs where the sponsor or the charter organization forwards any money or provides any money. But
John,
what else can we do?
John, they do support us. They give us about a 10 by 10 square foot room to keep our gear in and don't charge rent.
Yes, they do not charge rent, right? Yeah, I couldn't even get that in my new church building with a big empty basement. And my troop and pack are both gone now. Not necessarily that was the main factor, but so Francisco, your questions, what can you do? How can you recharter? It hits up against a lot of rocks in the road. The solutions are not easy if there is a solution to that problem. Just asking for national to give a status, like a hiatus status, just don't kick the units and the people off the rosters. I understand that if you are not registered for up to 1 year, you will not be treated as a brand new recruit joining. You won't have to pay that $25 again as a first-time person. But after a year worth, they could be applying that. Now, I haven't pursued that question, but that issue of hanging on, not having to start all over. You might have to do paperwork if you push it to a year. The troop or pack 609 Cubmaster asked if we could ask if their membership could just be converted to an 18-month membership. The existing one for this calendar year could be allowed to run through June 30th of next year, when we all hope that everything will be significantly better come July 1. That didn't receive too much positive response. Again, everything is fixed. Council's looking for its money to do its things. National is really under the gun for money. They're trying to figure out how to provide all these claims being made against them, where the money's going to come from. Yeah, I don't think any one of you want to hear all the possible things that have been thrown around as to where money's going to be extracted from.
Of course.
Not all going to come from insurance companies or from National. I haven't heard anything about it coming down onto units, but it might be that councils will have to kick in some money using their resources, assets, and possibly even the chartered organizations. I don't see that happening, but when you get lawyers involved, they come up with all these crazy things. And the financial people have their ideas of what they think might work. But if they're going to try to pay out a lot of money, they're not going to be wanting to pay any more towards existing units. I think we're even at this point lower on the totem pole. There is no bucket to draw money from for us. So I don't know what to say.
And again, John, because of our affiliation, I'm not worried about our situation settled, but I think you've got probably have 12 to 14 packs in Southern Liberty that need to hear the message that there is help, not a lot, but that there is some help, and someone really needs to, as I said, Ron, what's your favorite expression? You can find a lot more bees with honey than with vinegar. I think we need to be more supportive of the pack leaders that are out there dealing with this. And again, I'm going to be writing that message to the professional corps, because they need to understand that if they're going to be pushing, they're going to start finding resistance that is not going to be welcome and will not be beneficial to our program when things get back to normal. We just need to find a way to hunker down for the next 6 months, and then hopefully dust ourselves off and start all over again when things get back to normal. Beacon of Freedom is going to be Beacon of Freedom. We're going to be there. And I think I've told Ron, comes August, I'm going to be out there visiting every school in the Chelsea and Everett, dropping off flyers and getting the recruiting class going. But if people keep beating up the ones that are down there doing that next September, I think a few people are going to say, yeah, enough already.
Not in December.
In September, excuse me.
Right. I do have a question for all of you. How many are you folks using the stuff that council does have available? I found this flyer somewhere. I must have been when I was at the Scout store, of these different classes, free with the adventure card, base half-day programs. I believe these are all Saturdays. By rank specific adventures. This is in January 11th, Tigers. It's Stories in Shapes, Bears. It's called Roaring Laughter, And for Webelos, it's Art Explosion, which addresses the requirements 2 and 3. Is anybody using any of the units even aware of these programs that are available? It's a half day at 10 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon is the morning session. Afternoon is from 1 p.m. until 4 p.m.
I assume that's in January is going to be on Zoom, right? Because they can't meet indoors and.
It's all virtual stuff, right? It's not
Yeah.
in person at the camps.
Yeah, I mean, we're aware of those. I think we should probably take better advantage of it. And thank you for the reminder. I'll mention at our committee meeting next week. It's going to be helpful, I think, during some of these winter months. And you know, I mean, if you can sort of, I mean, it sounds like a DIN meeting that someone else runs, right? I mean, some of our
Yes.
DIN leaders might like a break, and you know, pass the buck off to someone else at NEBC to run an activity.
There's also, these are the boxes or kits that they're calling them. There's both patrol kits for Boy Scouts, but adventures for Cubs. There's 6 different ones available for Tigers, 5 for Wolves, 6 for Bear, and 5 for Webelos / Arrow of Light or second year Webelo. These are, again, focused on the individual adventures, the pieces that lead to their rank advancement. These boxes they have a fee. It's 20% off with the adventure card. And each one is, well, they're not all the same fixed price. It is a fixed price, but it's not the same for each of these kits, depending on what materials are in them that have to be resupplied. Basically, they're expendable. There are items that the kids get to use and keep, probably some paperwork as well, handout type stuff that you can use as leader. Somebody asked me, you know, how good is this if you can't get around? The council was making these kits available. They would drop them off by appointment, drop them off at a place in your town or near your town. And somebody from your pack would come and get them and then distribute them. Not that you could have indoor den meetings where they can work on these things together. But the suggestion from somebody at council was saying, well, the box doesn't have to stay in one place. It can go kid to kid to kid as long as you make the arrangements in between. Does anybody even know about these kits, these boxes?
Don't forget to
Materials?
sanitize after each use. You gotta sanitize all the equipment after each use. That was the first challenge they found.
What was I didn't hear all.
Make sure that you sanitize every individual piece after
Right.
each kid's use, which I guess the first time they got one of the boxes back, didn't look very sanitized.
Yeah. They say that these boxes are clean, restocked and cleaned, sanitized, and set on a shelf for, I think it's 72 hours. They don't let them just go right back out, but they sanitize them. It would be nice if the units did that before they turned them in, but at least you know that if you get one, it's safe. But whether people are using that is an additional fee, but it's discounted 20% because you have adventure cards. People aware of that stuff?
Yep.
Is anybody already using it?
We've definitely, we've used it.
So 313?
Pack 306, we've had a couple of dens take advantage of the boxes. And earlier in the pandemic, we'd had some other activities as well. But I think at this point, and we are with Pack 306, everybody's exhausted. So we had more activities in September and October, a little bit in November, and not so much on the calendar for December. We did one pack event where we did pumpkin carving by appointment in one of the local parks, and that was really well attended. And then in November, we did a huge collection for the food pantry of non-perishables like soap, deodorant, and that we got an amazing response. So I wanted to speak up and just say, I really feel like our council is not doing anything to help communities that are struggling. I see like Daniel Webster, I see Narragansett and Scouting for Food and a huge, huge focus on it. You know, and on Troop 313, we've found a grocery store in another town that will let us do Scouting for Food in February. And we're trying to figure out logistically if we could do that. But I wish the council was doing something, because I think that's a way that clearly our families who are exhausted felt really connected with this collecting for the food pantry. Because it was amazing, the response.
Yes, people are very generous, but they need to see it happening.
Yeah.
And to feel the encouragement. Yes. Well, we can pass that idea up to council.
Yeah, it's being done by our neighbors. I'm on their lists. Amazing amounts of food for people who need it. And we've got communities, you know, that Arlington is doing a very good job of trying to help, right? But our demographic is different than some of the other communities that they need everybody. The council could do it, and it could be good PR.
Right. Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. Because I know that there are very creative people and units out there doing stuff that other people hadn't thought about yet. But setting a good example is part of our role, not just to the kids, but to other adults. It's nice to see Scouting when it does work. Okay, we are approaching the 9 o'clock hour. I hope we didn't scare too many people away. The reminder said the meeting was going to go from 7:30 to 9:30. Roundtables, I always try to finish by 9. I do run over a few minutes once in a while, but especially with the later starting date. Was 7:30 too late for people? You think we should do these earlier? I think the one in June we started at 7 instead, but well, you guys are all here, so it's not a problem for you. But if you think we should start earlier, let me know. But I do not plan on running after 9. Even I want to go do something different.
Yeah.
Watch the Patriots game.
What's
John,
that?
I don't know if, yeah.
Pat's game is on tonight. Yep.
Oh, it's Thursday
Oh,
night. That's right. Yeah.
John,
I forgot about that.
I'm going to be sending, I received a letter from a young lady asking for the help of my PAC, which is non-existent. It's an agency that collects like any kids' works of art, letters, cards, and they send them to homes, senior citizen homes, disabled homes. And I asked if you could just forward it to anybody that's active that might have kids that might be able to contribute. Or they're looking for the kids to put a drawing, a letter, a card, and they'll bring them over to like the soldiers' home and all that. I'll forward it to you if you could get it out to anybody you think might be able to do something, and I'll let her know that hopefully she'll get something from some different people. It's just go to a PO box in Boston. She collects an interest to distribute it back to the communities where she received them from. Okay.
Okay, another good idea.
That's great.
I know myself, I'm normally doing Santa Claus for several senior places as well as PACs if they let me in. But it's great to work with the seniors. You'd think Santa Claus and little kids would be the big connection, but the seniors really like it too. I'm always happy to do that, but I can't do that this year. I can't even come down the chimney. So sneaking in that way, it's just not safe. My wife wouldn't let me out of the house anyway to do that. So yeah, restrictions on both ends. Can't get in there, can't get out of here. I
So,
do have one
Joe-
other thing.
Yeah.
Somebody have something?
No, I just, this is Henrik here. I'm not with the PACs and things, but I'm looking at the attendance here this evening. And it is a challenging year. I'm eager to hear other ideas, right? This is one of the things I want to hear. So it's great to hear the PACs. They're not immediately transferable on the troop, but it's inspiring. How can we get the other 19 that aren't present of PACs and however many troops, right? To come here to get, like Taylor, it was really inspiring to hear what you're up to, right? And successfully so. We hear challenges. Mike, you had some good stuff, and Amy as well. That's transferable. It's inspiring, and it's potentially transferable in various formats to then inspire den leaders, which ultimately have to find that energy. I feel you, Amy, in terms of you're a little bit worn out at this point, but it's good. It's the darkest time of the year, but the light is coming back soon.
I hope.
Yeah.
We've just passed the the earliest sunset.
Yeah. How can we get greater participation here to hear from each other, right? That's
Okay. One other thing I got is, everybody recognize this form? I attached it to the announcement of the roundtable 2 weeks ago. The annual Journey to Excellence evaluation score. This is actually a scorecard. It does have two sides. Scorecard this is just the one for the PACs. There's troops and everybody else. District gets some, council has their own versions. This is the tool that the commissioners are trying to use. We're told we have to use to evaluate units. I get pushed by the people above me to have every unit visited at least twice a year to get a full evaluation. And the rest of the time, it can be only partials. But they really want us to be visiting almost every unit every month. And we don't have enough commissioners to go around to do anything near that. But these evaluation sheets are supposed to be turned in with the Journey to Excellence evaluation sheets turned in with your rechartering. And the expectation is that every unit gets at least bronze level. The more things you have, the more things you do get recognized for. You can get bronze, then silver, then gold. Sounds like the Olympics. The evaluation is intended to at least two things, or three things actually, to be an ongoing reference to how well you're doing and what you might want to look at doing differently to try to satisfy these requirements, to show and therefore get credit. The second point, use for this is to get recognition for what you do as units. And the third one, I have now forgotten. Do planning, annual planning and continuous improvement. The BSA's method to encourage that. It's a way of helping you keep track of what needs to be done, or how you can maybe do more, but to meet the bare minimums to show that you are a good unit, a responsible, active unit that is delivering a good scouting program. You can always do things better, no matter how good you're doing. But there are lots of different tips in here. And the backside gives you some explanation of different things. There are adjustments that have been made because of COVID. Like you're supposed to have, they're looking for so many meetings. And of course you can't have meetings now. So virtual meetings will count. Virtual campouts. Committee meetings can be held remotely. Membership measures. Holding large formal recruiting events may not be possible. They got that right. You can do it by having personal invitations from youth to join, not just the face-to-face with the families. So take a look at these. Please work on them. Turn it in with your recharter paperwork. if you qualify for any of these recognitions and levels, certainly we want to get it out to you. They are streamers that go on your PAC flag. And use it as a resource to try to plan your next year. Of course, they change the requirements every year a little bit. They tweak up the numbers, looking for more and more, but at least it's the start, and it's uniform. Everybody fills out the same form, all looking for the same things. So with that, it is now 9:01 on my clock. Does anybody else have any questions or comments or suggestions you want to make at this point? We've covered quite a bit of ground. I took a lot of notes. Is there anything that anybody sees that we should be focusing on? Okay, not to that question. How about the next meeting, next round table? What topics would you like us to cover, provide information on, dig into? I've got a list of what the national calls these big rock topics, the very general things that you had in your basic training, that they want us to be going over during roundtables, or at least made available. But if there's any individual areas that we could focus our attention on and make available, I'd like to hear. Ron tries to organize our roundtables each month for the Scouts, the Boy Scouts, especially where he's a Scout Master. And we don't know what to do with the Cub Scout leaders. I don't want to be haranguing you on rechartering, because that only should happen once a year. I'm not going to touch that in January. I'll just go after the individual units, not at a round table. But whatever topics you'd like us to work on, please let me know. My email is the same. You get that. My address hasn't changed. I actually still have my old account, Verizon, but don't use that because I hardly ever look at it. So we would like to hear some ideas what the needs of the units are, so we can try to address them.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else? Nothing else to throw in the pot? Dutch oven? Whatever? Okay. Got to rise out of some of you. All right. Well, thank you all for participating tonight. It was good to see your faces. I look forward to seeing you all in the new year. Things got to get better, because it doesn't seem like they can really get worse.
Oh, please, John, don't say that. Everybody stay safe. Great seeing you all.
Yes.
That's right.
Be safe.
Everything
be
except,
healthy,
yeah.
be kind to each other. I wish you all the happiest of holidays, and definitely a happy new year. So
Great holidays. Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year, everybody.
take care all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Be well.
Be well. Thank you.
Bye.
And good night.